Hey, what's up, everybody? We're gonna get started in just a minute here. We're letting some people jump in, so hang tight, everyone. When I do this space slash stream, I'm gonna do it a little differently. I'm gonna try to go full face or full screen when I'm talking, and yeah, we'll get it going. I think we'll answer all the questions. Hey everybody, thanks for jumping on early. We're going to get started in a couple minutes. I'm going to let some people trickle in and then we'll get going just so I don't have to repeat anything. So hang tight for like 2 minutes here and then we'll get started. I hope somebody comes in that we can have co-host for us as well. Otherwise it might be kind of annoying to pull everybody up here. We'll see. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks, everybody in the chat and the stream right now. Appreciate you. We're going to get started in just a minute. Do a little intro, what have you. Okay, let me make sure I got this ready. That should be good like that. Screen. Okay, guys, so just to keep you guys entertained for a second while we're getting started here, this is Ashton Forbes. This is my MH370 AMA, Ask Me Anything, / retirement explanation space. So the way this will go down today is I'm just going to do a little bit of go over some stuff that I just want to kind of talk about. Maybe I'll address some questions ahead of time by discussing some of this stuff. I'm going to reveal kind of why I've decided to step away from the MH370 investigation effective next month. And then I'm going to open it up to people who want to ask questions around anything you want to ask, actually. Anything around me or the case or what's been going on with the case or the evidence or anything you want. And yeah, so after we've addressed any of the thing that people want to ask, then we'll close it out. I'm planning on it going about maybe an hour or 2 hours. Hopefully not too long. I want to keep it pretty short and sweet. I am not trying to build this up or anything like that, but I do want to make sure I address any questions that people have out there. So hang tight and we'll get started in a minute. I'm not going to pull people up on the speaker panel until after I go through my intro stuff, but you're free to request now, and then I'll pull people up when we get to that. So hang tight for 1 more minute here. Okay, guys, I think we're good here. Okay. How many people we got in the space? We got a pretty decent amount already. Actually, I think we're just going to go ahead and get started right now. People can listen in and to the recording if they want. Okay, so first thing people want to probably know is, why am I stopping the investigation? And the answer to that is multi-pronged. But part of the answer really is that we've kind of hit the end in terms of what we can find out about the case related to MH370. This started back in August. It's been about 6 months, and we've investigated essentially every aspect around the videos as well as everything that's been out there historically regarding the case in general. And the first thing I want to say is thank you to everybody who's been following along with the investigation. It's just been a crazy, incredible journey where we've gotten this huge amount of followers that have been coming along. And I think that I hope if you all get anything out of this, that there's an inspiration that, anyone can follow this playbook that's been laid out for investigating unusual evidence, phenomenon, conspiracies, whatever it may be. That nothing I've been doing here is really special in terms of or unique, and that it crowdsourced investigations and research can accomplish a lot. That's what I want people to take away from it. Now, I'm going to start, I think, then with explaining why that I've chosen to step down from this beginning next month. And just to keep this in mind, just the fact that I'm stepping down next month does not mean that I'm going to be pulling back at all. If anything, I'm going to be going full throttle between now and then. I'm probably going to be making several more posts that I have in mind, as well as reviewing old posts that I think a lot of people potentially didn't see from early on in the investigation, and doing little bits of retrospectives about them in general. Now, this is something that I haven't brought up and I haven't revealed, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to reveal it, but I think that people will find it interesting in general, is that I have spoken to several very large podcasters. Joe Rogan reached out to me this last weekend, and he wanted to have me come on the show. And of course, I said, yeah, definitely going to do that. No question, right? I was a little bit worried about it because the situation has gotten so polarized regarding, just how negative, the negative reaction that I've seen and heard. And I had also talked with Chad and Sherry of the Investigate Earth podcast, who I see here. Hi, guys. And we talked as well about a lot of the negative comments that people were posting, and it's not something I had uniquely seen from them, but I've also had basically every podcaster that I've gone on has essentially told me that they've had people reaching out to them, making up lies about me, saying I stole work from people, calling me a grifter, all kinds of just heinous stuff in general, right? So the next day after I talked to Joe Rogan, he came back and he said, I want to put a pause on this until I can figure out whether or not it's legitimate, right? And he found some stuff on Reddit as well as the Danny Jones interview, and said that, I think this is fake, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have to, cancel this interview. And I was a little bit disappointed, but also a little bit relieved at the same time, because I was worried that going onto a level that's that large could create a huge amount of animosity towards me in general. Although that was also the end goal for this. Before he messaged me back the next day, I was sitting there thinking, this would be where I would pull back and I would retire from the case after doing that interview. Because the way I was looking at that interview and thinking about it is going, man, people are going to be really pissed off. People are really going to lash out at me for doing that kind of interview. And I thought that would be the time where I would just throw all the evidence out there and let people decide for themselves, right? So when he came back and said, I can't do it, whatever, I kind of stacked everything up in my head, thought about it for a couple days, and I thought this is probably still a good time to step back from the case in general. I was already planning on doing it after that interview. I have also had not as in-depth conversations, but I've also talked to some of the other podcasters that I wanted to go on, like Sean Ryan, Lex Friedman, etc. And I imagine that the other ones had similar worries and concerns. And I think that what's disappointing about it is it goes to show how much influence social media has on people and on what their beliefs are. And so to a larger element, you see that these types of really lazy debunks and stuff and disinformation that gets pushed out there can have really powerful impacts on what information gets fleshed out to the public. And why is this super important? Is that this is how all of this stuff is being kept hidden. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, guys. The science of anti-gravitational technology has already been proven. It's already out there, and it's been out there for probably decades. That's the sad statement of what I've discovered and the people that I've talked to. Are these videos real? I believe they are 100%. I would say that, if I'm being a rational person, I can only say I'm 99.9% sure because I know the science is real and everything else related to it. But that's the case in general. And now we're at a point where it's not a matter of providing more evidence for it. It's at a situation now where we've put all the evidence out there and people kind of have to decide for themselves. And I think it's a real situation where people have to slowly come to terms with this type of technology being real. And when they come to those terms, then I think that we can be ready for the conversation about, did the United States government steal this plane, which is what I think they did. And I don't know how long that's going to take. That's the truth of the reality, is I don't know how long that's going to take. I think that it could take years. It could even take decades, theoretically. And so that's the part where I don't want to be one of these people who ties my whole personality around a situation that happened, even if I think it's super important, even if I'm 100% sure that those videos are real and this is what happened to the plane. I don't want to be one of those people that every single day is sitting out there posting about, okay, everybody, we have to look at this, blah, blah, blah. It's just, that's not what I want to be doing with my life in general. And so instead, my approach is not to give up on it, but instead to focus on the science, learning the science, because the reality of what I've learned as well is that anybody can learn electrical engineering. They can learn the science behind what makes those videos real, how that technology is real. And if we are able to prove that, then we can get to a situation where we can get the truth for the families, that we can show the world the technology is true and real, right? And I think that the people that have been watching along for the last few months have already seen how far I've already come in just a few months from teaching myself. And I think that you all at home can do this as well. So it's not a matter of giving up on them. It's a matter of the reality of the situation is that the government who can hide this is much, much more powerful than we are. And we have to realize that. And we also have to realize what we are capable of doing, which is empowering ourselves and helping to empower everybody else around us, helping our little corner of the world get slightly better. Now that's on the positive note. What the other thing I want to say too is what I've experienced with respect to, actually, one more thing I want to say first before I get to that is the body of evidence has been out there. So I have gone ahead and I'll go ahead and pull Chad and Sherry. I think I see them up here. But if you could hang on a second. The body of evidence I've made available. I have never paywalled anything. I have never made money off of selling anything to anybody related to any of this. The only money that I've gained at all is related to posts on Twitter, and it's not very much at all, and doing streams on YouTube. And if you were to add it up, it would be far, far, far less than even minimum wage would be. So this is not a situation where I've gained any significant amount of funding or money from this. I've never tried to grift or profit off of this in any way, shape, or form. And that's, I think, another reason why it makes sense to, kind of stop the investigation at this point so that people can realize that this was something that came from somebody who was no one, just somebody in the community who wanted to get the evidence out there for everyone, right? And if something were to show up and happen again in the future, like we were to have Edward C. Lynn come forward as a whistleblower, or if we were to have, these videos get authenticated perhaps by AARO or another governing body, then that would be a situation where I could come back in and discuss that, because ultimately at the end of the day, I want the technology to be revealed, but I also want to get the truth for the families of the victims of MH370. Now, I also want to quickly address the UFO community, and now I'm mostly addressing UFO Twitter, but really all of the social media communities, including Reddit that I've seen as well, to a lesser extent 4chan, not really, but a little bit. And I have to be honest, what I've seen from those communities has pretty much disgusted me in general. I think that, and it's not just one side or the other, I think that the whole conversation is been misappropriated. I think that very few people are talking about the stuff that matters. I think that everybody is trying to cut everybody else down. And so what I want to say in general is that there are two kinds of people in this world. You have people in this world who are trying to build things and lift things up and make their own path. And then you have people in this world that are trying to cut people down and trying to stop and put barriers up for other people. And I think that everybody in this world should think about what kind of person that they want to be in general. Do you want to be somebody that's making your own path and making and kind of setting the trends, or do you want to be somebody that is trying to tear other people down? On the, let's say, the believer standpoint, I have been told that what I've been doing has been a distraction from the community and from disclosure, and nothing could be further from the truth. I think that the sad reality, in my opinion, is that disclosure is never coming, at least not from the people that you would imagine it to be coming from. And that if we continue to put your faith in those types of people, you're always going to be disappointed. They will constantly push back the timeline over and over and over again. The people that have NDAs are never going to be able to tell the truth about the technology because it's being covered up for national defense purposes. So what I would ask for the people that are the strong believers in the phenomenon is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't look up to other people to tell you when the time is coming. Do the work yourself. The people that I respect the most are the people out there that A, are open-minded, but B, are the ones that are putting in their own investigative research and work. And I see very few people doing that. And instead, I see a lot of people just repackaging content. To the people that are on the skeptic side, what I've realized about the people on the skeptic side is they are in just as much of a closed-minded belief system as what they imagine the people who believe in it are. It is a point where people use their own confirmation bias to debunk and ridicule and to dismiss any video and claims that they see out there. If this phenomenon is real, and I'm sure there's some aspect of this phenomenon that's real, whether it be aliens, crafts, or the technology as we've been revealing it, then that means there are other videos out there and there is other stuff out there that's real and it's been getting debunked under false pretenses. What I would expect for both sides, and I posted a clip about this earlier, is to hold themselves to the same standard on either end. There's a lot of people out there, especially in the skeptic camp, that think, well, if I can poke one hole in this, then it's been debunked. The people on the believer side should not allow for that to happen. The people on the skeptic side should have higher standards than that as well. I think that both sides should be trying to develop a story and get to the facts. You know, an example of this would be, I think there's one orb video that I saw that it was filmed by a drone, and they said it was an Amazon balloon, right? A 30-year Amazon balloon, because you could see yellow coloring on the side of it. Why doesn't either side try to get in contact with the person that made the video? Why doesn't either side try to actually go dig into the facts as opposed to speculating constantly? You know, I think that editorial and opinion certainly has a place in the community, but factual-based research is how you're going to get the answers. So that's me on my soapbox for one last second. And then the last thing I want to say is that I am not sad or disappointed by any of this and how all this stuff has gone down. I think that I couldn't be happier in terms of the people that I've met, the connections that I've made, and the work that we've done to push the discussion forward. I plan to continue to push that discussion forward in general, and I hope that by doing this, it can show that I am somebody who is impartial related to the case and the investigation, and that in time, people can come to realize that even if they can't do it right away. I don't mean anybody ill will. I think I've had some amazing conversations with the podcasters that have been out there, and I appreciate you guys very much. Now, at this point, I see Mellow Demon jumped in here as a co-host. Thank you guys very much for jumping in. Tupacabra, nice to see you as well. JK Philly fan, I see Jenny in here as well as a lot of other people. Tony, other people that have been following this entire time. I appreciate it. So I want to go ahead and open it up to questions at this point. If you guys can ask me anything you want. I'll do, as always, I've been 100% truthful about everything as best as I know it. And I'll be willing to tell you guys anything that you want to know about me, the case, or anything that you want to hear about. So we can either bring people up, you can raise hands, or you can just jump on in, whatever you guys want to do.
JK. Okay, I think we see JK had a hand up there. Pleasure to be with you guys all. Hey, Tupa. Hey, friends. JK, you got something you want to say?
JK,
okay, I don't hear him. Yeah, we also have a lovely hand, a gorgeous hand, I might say, from Mr. Tupa as well. We got him talking now.
I just wanted to thank you for all that you've done so far, all the things that you've dedicated to this. Just a couple questions. Let's just say two questions. One, are you taking a break as far as just kind of just getting that big breath you need and kind of maybe just letting things just flow as they need to organically? And the second question I would say is, are there any more FOIAs you think that are out there? You think that maybe we haven't looked at or that are pertinent? That might be something up to like March 8th, or are we set as far as the amount of FOIAs? Because I know, like you said, it takes forever for government to do just one thing. So those are pretty much my two questions.
Great questions, JK. I appreciate you, man. You've been, JK Philly fan's been one of my admins in the Discord and probably the person who's contributed the most to the investigation behind the scenes. So I just want everybody to give him kind of a round of applause, pat on the back, because he's done just an amazing amount of work. And especially, probably, I think he's the person who's probably understood the science even potentially better than I have in the same period of time where we've both been kind of trying to learn it. Now, in terms of what my plans are, I don't really have a plan to take my foot off the brake and like step back, but I may. I think that probably what I'll do is I'll try to set a more standard streaming schedule that's not every single day, that's potentially at a specific time every day. That's going to be more focused on the science aspect of it and digging into the science and not necessarily becoming a teacher, but becoming an active participant as somebody whoever wants to follow along and try to learn the science around electrical engineering, scalar waves, all these concepts related to anti-gravity that we see that you can come on and be a part of as well. And I'm going to continue to post anything, science related that I see on my Twitter channel. One thing that I have kind of decided, I think, is that I don't potentially plan on posting as much UFO content as I was thinking. I may still post some here and there, but one thing I think when I was watching the Aaron Rodgers and Joe Rogan podcast was that Joe Rogan mentioned that he likes the ones that go really fast, right? They show something anomalous, and I kind of realized that's what I like too. I like the ones that are just floating around are kind of neat, right? But the ones where you can actually see these macroscopic phase conjugation events like teleportation or hyperspeed or whatever these really fast moving things are, I think are the ones that are really exciting to me. So that's probably what you'll see on that front. Sorry, I forgot, what was your other point, JK?
Oh yeah, if there's any other outstanding FOIAs that you think
the
are
FOIAs.
pertinent.
So I don't think there's any more FOIAs. I did FOIA like 9 more agencies a couple weeks ago, and I got one rejection back where they essentially said right away, due to the nature of what the subject was, that they couldn't confirm or deny anything. And then I haven't got any other responses back yet, but a lot of them mail them back to you. So I will be looking to possibly get some more of those FOIA responses back. And as I receive any in the future, then I will post updates related to those just so that people know what's going on. But I don't think there's much more we can FOIA. The reality of the situation is, as I think the people that were like, for some reason, there were people trying to FOIA my interactions with AARO. I guess they didn't believe me or something like that. I think that what they realized, even when they did that, is that it's super hard to get FOIAs. It's so easy for the government to deny them, delay them, use all kinds of different explanations for why they can't give them back to you. But if stuff comes up, then the other thing I want to say real quick on this line is that just because I'm stopping doesn't mean you guys have to stop. If you want, that's why I'm going to, before March 8th, I plan to do one more all evidence review. I plan to put all the evidence out there. If anyone wants to pick up that evidence, you want to take the reins on it and lead the investigation forward to the next level, feel free. I would 100% encourage it and support it, to be honest with you. But if not, I understand as well. And it's totally up to you guys on that front. Okay, let's do some more questions. Tupa, I think you were next.
What's up, man? Really interesting announcement. I like that you're doing this AMA. I've actually liked a lot of the stuff that you've done since I first met you, Ashton. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this question? Where have you succeeded where others have failed? And I'm referring to researchers and people who are attempting to get the word out. You did a press run like I've never seen in my life. Where were you? Where was your success? Where other people just couldn't figure it out?
Yeah, great question. I think that the thing about the press run is wild. Like I want to add up how many podcasts I've done because I think it might be like over 70 or 80 at this point. It's pretty wild. And my view initially was all of this, I've been so new to all of this, right? Like I overconfidently thought that, like these big podcasters would want to reach out right away. And then you find out they don't. You find out there's a lot of small podcasters who do, and you find out that due to the nature of the case and just kind of how explosive it was, that a lot of people got a lot of attention for it. And I wanted to help out all the podcasters that were out there, because I think that alternative media really is the future and the answer. So I think I fulfilled basically every request I possibly could that were out there. No matter how big the podcasters were, and it slowly started to build, and you started to get some bigger ones and some smaller ones, but the conversation, like the quality of the conversation was not based on how big or small the podcasters were, which is one thing that I found pretty interesting. And then in terms of success or failure where other people have tried, I think it just has to do with the quality of the evidence, right? Like in this case, it was just kind of a perfect storm between this plane that had gone missing, where a lot of people had an uneasy feeling about the story related to it. Even the conspiracy post I made, I think yesterday, mentions the whole rogue pilot suicide theory as being a conspiracy theory, which it is, because in order for that to be true, you have to believe that all the officials, the wife, the coworkers are all lying. because they've got a clean bill of health and all this stuff. I think that just because there was so much evidence that we could dig into, it made it a unique situation as well. Like we could look back and Google back like 10 years ago, find all the old press conferences, find this sketchy interview with the Malaysian Minister of Defense. We found everything. We re-reviewed it all, right? And I think that in the future, because now we're in the 21st century, that will become more and more possible with future cases as well. But it's harder for the stuff that's a lot older. Like if you're going to take like JFK, for example, and him being assassinated, it's like a lot of that stuff was on paper, right? So you can go back to it, but it's a lot more work to dig into it versus now where we have this stuff that it was all available on the internet there. We were able to dig through and find those videos and exactly when they dated back to. And I think the biggest challenge for anyone going forward now is going to be this idea of, well, AI could have just created this, right? Like I see a lot of videos that are pretty cool, but it's like, man, how would you ever be able to tell if AI created it or not? And I think the answer there is you've got to dig into the foundation of the research. You got to, like I was saying earlier, in terms of my kind of challenge to the community is, dig for the facts. Reach out and try to talk to the people that made the videos, witnesses, et cetera, that saw the stuff. And the truth is, I don't know. I don't have a perfect answer for how to be successful in general. I think that the takeaway here is that I started with the red pill, which if people don't know, the red pill is you realize, well, the Matrix is a big lie and that you're living in this reality where we're being lied to. And then it almost shifted to a black pill situation where you realize that the government has so much control over everything that we see and do and perceive that for the vast majority of people out there, they might as well be NPCs. They're just regurgitating whatever they've been told. And I think that's a huge challenge. So I guess to answer your question, Tupa, I would say is that the way that I looked at it is, well, now I just have to teach myself how it works, right? If I am looking at something and I'm sure that that is real, then I have to figure out from the scientific perspective, how is that functioning? And I think that we can do that. And then the question is, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I made a post about this when I did the Salvatore Pius post, is that what you realize, why people may ask, well, why are the scientists not going on to CNN and talking about the fact there's anti-gravitational technology? And the reason there is because a lot of the people aren't going to believe them, and they just don't have any incentive to try to convince them. If you know that kind of technology is real and you can take advantage of it and you can make millions of dollars off of it and you can even patent some of it, who cares what the regular people, the little people, the peasants like us think, right? They just don't care. And so my approach is kind of like that too. Well, if I can figure it out, then, why am I going to care anymore about what everybody else thinks? Now, I think that's kind of a nihilistic approach, and I hopefully want to be somebody who can get that information out there to everybody else, but I think we also have to be realistic. Any follow up on that, Tupa?
No, I think that was a great answer. As always, your answers are thoughtful and insightful. I think that I just want to say, like, what you were able to accomplish, I hope inspires more people, more researchers to dive deep and to like really explore every little aspect of a case that you can. There's so much research being done in this field, but it seems like the efforts are going to the wrong places. I think that might be one of your strengths with this stuff, is being able to focus on like not just the most salacious facts, but the most important ones, the most groundbreaking ones, the ones that need answers. Because if they were answered, would change the game forever. A lot of people I've noticed are kind of like they chase paper. I don't know how it's described, but they're chasing paperwork. And that's great, you know what I mean? But you lose a little bit of the story each time when you're on page 75 of some document, and you just really maintained it in focus for everyone. It allowed everyone to follow along and feel like they were a part of it. And I think that's one of your strengths too. So yeah, keep it up. I can't wait to see what else you focus on next. I'm going to be around, bro.
Yeah, we'll be hanging out still. I appreciate you, Tupa. Tupa also was one of the people that early on hosted me in some spaces and kind of was super nice to me in general. And, I think that he's experienced backlash from the community as well, where, this community can be vile. And what we really need to be doing is having conversations, and Tupa's been hosting a lot of those conversations. So greatly appreciative of him in general. One thing I also want to say on it regarding like the Soul Foundation stuff that's come out, I think there is some stuff in those videos where they do the Soul Foundation videos where there are people talking about the science, but there's so many people in there that are talking about the spiritual aspect of the phenomenon, right? Which certainly that is an important aspect, but to me that takes away from how we actually achieve disclosure. You know, you talk about the spiritual aspect. To me, that's not pushing the needle forward. To me, pushing the needle forward is talking about what the technology can do for our civilization and change our civilization. That's how you reach the normal people on the street that would otherwise not be interested in the phenomenon, in my opinion. One quick thing I also want to say as well: some people in the stream right now, I'm streaming, wanted to know if the Scar joke got to me. So this is a little bit of an inside joke where I said that I would give in and say that the videos are all fake if they cloned Scarlett Johansson and gave me a Scarlett Johansson clone. I can say that that did not happen, sadly. But yes. Okay, let's jump over to Jenny. I think you were up next.
Oh, wow, like I'm over here. I gotta process the Scarlett Johansson clone. I mean, I can kind of understand. You know, I was going through all of our movies and shit. Like, I'm definitely a fan. But so we're coming up on 10 years, right? March, what? It'll be 10 years this March that this whole thing occurred. And basically, what's happened is you guys tried to get that dude to debunk it, and they failed, correct? So now you're like open water with technology improving it, and then one of the coolest things that you're doing is technology, which happens to kind of coincide with the same type of technology that I'm interested in as well, but it's mental. So, like, besides CERN and playing around with matter, we're talking about the fundamental aspects of like reality is what you're going to start to study. Where the technology comes from, the fact that a lot of the things that we're seeing that we think are these crazy phenomena are actually things that we are capable of performing as human beings, and we have with hidden technology. And that's exciting because what it does is you're blending in the past to the present. And I want to ask you, for your community, how's your support been? You know, I was actually in a space with you. I'll just openly say this. I deeply respect you. I think that you have manners. I think that you're a nice person. I think that when I hear you speak and I have been around anything whoever raised you, whatever your life was like, you're a cool person. And I really like that about you. That might be cheesy, but I'm just going to say it. So I'm wondering how you're being treated, and are people giving you a hard time? Are you now like some agent, like, you know, all that bullshit? And if that's the case, man, I'm sorry that you have to go through that.
No, you cracked me up. Because the other thing too that I've said pretty clearly too is that you know, the world is not black and white. It is definitely shades of gray, right? And anyone that claims to be uncorruptible is probably lying in general. I can say that I have not been corrupted yet, but when you look at stuff like this, it is hard. There is this moral dilemma between wanting to reveal the truth and then, if the videos are real, realizing that you're essentially kind of being a traitor to your own country, right? And that's not what I want either. So that's certainly something that I've struggled with. With respect to the community, people have treated me really well in general. I mean, there always are trolls and stuff like that. But you know, I'm over 40 years old, not very much over 40, but over 40, and I grew up with social media in its very advent to where it is now, and I have experienced trolls all my life, right? And that's the part where it's like, even if I get into an argument with the troll, like I wake up the next morning and I've totally forgotten about it, don't really care anymore at all, right? You have to have this ability to just brush it off. You're always gonna have haters. But what I will say is that I've looked at my own behaviors because I like to kind of clap back at people, and I realize that that's not really something that's generally productive, and have tried to kind of rise above that in general. So I'm always learning as well, and this whole experience for the last 6 months has been a huge learning experience for me in terms of how you deal with social media, especially as you are someone who is, I guess, humbly like growing as an influencer, right? And then to your question of the science, is that from what I've dug into, I absolutely agree. I think that the science, the only way that you can have a lot of this stuff being real, the stuff that I've been talking about, like teleportation, quantum, faster than light communication, all these things are quantum and macro.
There's no such thing as solid matter. Like, you're literally going to the epic point. I mean, this is it. This is what we're freaking dealing with, and our ability to interact with it. This is huge. This is the precipice of an entirely new world. I'm just sorry, you just really got me excited. This is totally
no, it is,
great.
it is, right? And what I'm saying is that this stuff has been out there, and then what I've realized as part of this is it's not a matter of me proving unification theories are true. They already have been, and they're already out there. And I've been reading papers over and over. I think we found like 4 different theories of unification that are all out there that could all be potentially reconciled, so that the answer is somewhere in there, right? And what this kind of means is that the nature of our reality is not what we perceive it to be. That there is either an extra dimension, if you want to think of it like that, or an underlying framework to our reality. And that is a very spiritual thing, like the people in the Soul Foundation are mentioning. But at the same time, it's a very real thing. I mean, that's the nature of our reality in general, and it means that we can advance in a lot of ways. Someone in my chat was also along these lines saying, well, what would be the first thing that would change for humanity in general? And I think that if you look at my bold predictions, which if this stuff's real, then those bold predictions are going to be coming true. The first one is superconductivity, room temperature superconductivity. You can watch the interview I did yesterday with Questions We're Too Afraid to Ask, where we talk about this in great detail in terms of how it will change all our devices and how we transmit power throughout the world pretty much overnight, like very, very quickly. And that's going to be the beginning. Go ahead.
Is that the patent that Jake has out? He always talks with you about the.
I don't think that's the particular one, but the LK99 is the one that's like kind of on the precipice right now. Where we're supposed to get some more news in March, and there may be more videos. I've been posting several videos of flux pinning and Meissner effect that are out there. And if room temperature,
there's a room temperature superconductor on there too, a patent.
Yeah, and
I'll find it.
There was a couple papers too. I think that my friend Dave Rossi also posted one about aluminum back in '67, like almost 80 years ago, where we were already basically, or 60 years ago, where potentially the Russians had already kind of figured out a way to induce room temperature superconductivity in aluminum by oxidizing it. I think it's already out there. It's a matter of getting out there. Mello also just put in the pill, whatever this is called. I don't know. The thing in the top here about free energy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the mellotron is what I refer to it as, but the nest is the common term.
Okay. Yeah. So the nest, sorry, that free energy, right? Like I think that a lot of people, what this also leads to is free energy. And you may have skeptics out there that go, well, these things can't be real because they violate certain principles. Like it may violate causality if we move faster than the speed of light, but that's not true because time is relative, and you can have time dilation effects that can correct for that type of thing. And then from the perspective of free energy, they may say, well, it defies the laws of thermodynamics, but no, it doesn't defy the law of thermodynamics because you have an open system. You open the system to the energy of the vacuum of space-time. And that if there's more energy in the area in the palm of my hand, we can use that energy in our system, and that's how we can get more energy out. This is how you can get stuff called coefficient of performance greater than 1, COP. If you look at Bob Greenier's paper, you can see that from like a month ago, you can see that these vortex tube generators, like the thunderstorm generator, are actually producing more overall energy in the terms of heat and what have you than what is being put in. Pretty amazing stuff out there. One last thing about Jenny I want to say is that Jenny has been an awesome person that I met through Jake Chansley's Spaces. And I love her and I love him. I think they're just both really awesome, open-minded people that have a good heart. And tomorrow I'll also be doing another space with Jake Chansley. I can't wait for it. We're going to be talking about advanced technology, the suppression of it, and how we get that information out. It's going to be awesome. Sarah, I think you're. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
I'm so sorry. Did you see that equation where they were doing the unit separation? Because did you see that? I think you might have shared it. That chick that came on and did an explanation of equations. She was just trying to kind of with quantum. Did you see it?
I don't think I saw it, but you can send it to me if you want.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It would go into I'm gonna put it in the pill. If anybody wants to check it out too, because it's basically one of the problems with presenting quantum mechanics. So if anybody's a brain out there, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then one of the theories I'll just put us out there is ER equals EPR. So if you are interested in some of these unification theories, I know that Salvatore Pais is the superforce. Juan Maldacena and Susskind have ER equals EPR. And then Martin Gibson and Roy D. Herbert also have a unification theory of dilation theory. So there's at least 3 just right there off the top of my head that I've listed for you guys. Okay, let's go over to Sarah. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, no problem. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. I first and foremost just want to say a little bit about I'm a researcher as well. I'm like old school researcher, like JFK. I started back in the early 90s before internet. And for decades, I've done research on the military industrial complex, the Kennedy assassination, the decades of the 50s, the 60s. And so when I came across the UFO Reddit, and I believe that that's where you began to really pick it up, and then kind of followed you over to Twitter, when I realized who it was, I was absolutely impressed with your research, with your not only knowledge, but also like you just kept digging and you kept getting shit on, and but you kept going, and um you just weren't debunked yet. It was like, okay, what are we doing now? Okay, wow, this is crazy. And so from one researcher to another, thank you, because we're always, out there, and we each have our own thing that we research, right? Everybody here, we all have one, basis, and we go for that. And then what I love about this is MH370 brought you here. It brought you to us. It brought you to everyone in this space. And everyone that you've touched. And now you're taking this research that you started and you're branching off. And from one researcher to another, like I started with JFK when I was 14, and I'm in my 40s as well. And so I branched and learned so much. And I'm really excited to see where you branch off to, where you're going to go. And I thank you for everything that you've done, all the work that you've put in, the bullshit that you've taken. I agree with Jenny, 100%. Whoever raised you, your morals, your respect levels, it's been a pleasure to follow you thus far. I appreciate you. Um, Interestingly enough, like, you know, you do one thing and then you brought me into UFO Twitter. I never knew that this existed. I've been researching this stuff forever and I just never knew it existed, and now I'm learning. I'm sitting in on Mello. Thank you, Mello. Tupa, thank you. I listen, and I don't even, like, I'm this creepy person that sits in the background and just listens, because I don't know. I don't know everything, and I don't claim to, but I'm curious, and I've got my own books going, and I'm in it as well. And I just appreciate that. I appreciate you. And I wanted to just take a moment and say that. And if you ever need a research person or someone you want to throw something at, always here for anyone. It's not my day job, it's just my second job. So
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And Sarah, I've noticed, even some of the people that don't have huge followings, I do scroll through my feeds and I do see some of your guys' posts. So it's fun to see Sarah's post where she's out having drinks with people, friends, husband, and talking about either the case or the phenomenon in general. I like that a lot. So keep up the good work, Sarah. I also want to give a couple shout outs to some people I saw in the chat. If I don't get you, it's not personal at all. But Noah, I know, has been out there kind of pushing the information forward, trying to get that information, I believe, onto Reddit as well in some cases. Got a lot of pushback as well. So I just appreciate you putting it out there. Megan, I see in the chat as well. Megan is somebody who I've noticed from interacting with her in spaces that she has been doing the research herself. She dug into like the Nazca mummies, for example, as opposed to just letting the common perception and kind of consensus overwhelm her and determine what her beliefs are. No, she dug into it herself. And that's the kind of research we need, kind of going to Tupacabra's point. So thank you guys. I think Chad or Sherry, whoever's on Investigate Earth, I think you're next.
Hey, what's up, guys? So listen, I know a lot of you, by the way, are saying he is raised very well. Ashton's actually Hell's Angels biker, so you probably, I'm just kidding, Ashton.
Me too, dude.
Complete joke. Anyway, so some of you may know who we are, but we actually brought Ashton on. I think maybe we were the first podcast Ashton came on. We had a lot of our listeners, and just so for people that don't know, our podcast basically, we talk about corruption, conspiracy, UFOs, interdimensional stuff, kind of all of that. And a lot of our listeners, as Ashton started going, there was a lot of people that said, hey, man, you got to get Ashton on, talk about the MH370 thing, because we had never covered MH370 necessarily. But what I found interesting was there was a huge want for the information of MH370. When Ashton came on, I think it came on 3 times originally, And I think each of those episodes had over 1 million downloads. And we were just like, okay, people love what he's saying. They want to know this because that has been one of the biggest unsolved mysteries of our time. But then as Ashton kind of dove in and he started researching and getting knowledge and gaining knowledge, I guess you can say, it shows, number one, Ashton's very smart. It shows he's very intellectual. It shows that, when he dives into something, that this is a guy you would want on your team, in any team. If you're researching anything, this is someone that you want on your team. And so when Ashton came on, we had just this overwhelming response from our listeners. And people love the aspect of the investigative work that Ashton's done in his team and everybody around it, but in particular, Ashton for sure. But I think Ashton was talking a little bit earlier. We've done this podcast for 7 years. And obviously when, if you look up Google or whatever, they'll call us controversial host, or we are a controversial podcast. And anything and any time you challenge the narrative, you're going to be controversial no matter what. If you challenge the official agenda, whether it is you're bucking up against the government, you're bucking up against what mainstream NBC, ABC, or whoever tells the public, you're going to be controversial. And I called Ashton last week and I said, hey man, it was interesting because I've never looked at comments on Spotify. Because, on Spotify, you can go to a podcast, there's like a question and answer section, or it says, what do you think of an episode? And you actually have to log into Spotify to look at those comments. And then you either have to approve all, or you have to approve each individual comment. And so I finally logged on there because our host is actually with iHeart. We are signed by iHeart, but we're distributed basically to all the platforms. And so I finally got on Spotify, connect our account, and I started looking at some of this stuff. Now, there are people that hate us based on our beliefs or viewpoints. Over 7 years, trust me, we've had viewpoints to where we had this particular opinion. We would say that opinion based on everything we could possibly garner from everything we can find.
Oh, did we lose him? Can you guys hear it?
Hey, no, I can't hear anyone. So I guess while he's getting recycled, we'll get to the next hand. Artisan, what's up?
Tony.
Hey, had to switch to my phone. My laptop wasn't working. How's it going, Ashton?
Hey, good, man. We had a great conversation last week, I think it was. How are you doing?
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for your objectivity and your approach to things. It's funny. I was going to say it's nice to see someone in their 20s being objective, but then I realized, then I learned you were 40. But anyway, but again, thanks for, contributing to the community and, what you're going to do going forward, just setting an example for people to be more objective. So that's all. I didn't want to take up too much time. I wanted to say thank you and good luck. And we'll see you again on the Pi-Fi show, hopefully.
Heck yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think that you guys should definitely check out Tony's show. We had an awesome conversation on people I want. What was it? People I like to talk to. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, go ahead, Tony. Help me out.
Oh, people I find interesting.
People I find interesting.
Pi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah, talking with Alexi was really interesting. I think that it always makes me feel better when I start talking about the science. Then you've got somebody who knows the science really well going, wait, yeah, that's theoretically possible, right? So I think that's really cool in general. And yeah, thank you very much, Tony, for that. Check out his show. You really check out everybody, up on the speaker panel. Everybody here is really awesome. And I think UFO Intros is gone. I wanted to get to them, but they dropped out. So I guess next we can go over to Alien Girl. So real quick for Alien Girl, has been somebody that's been following along a lot. I believe she's part of Chris Leto's community. And she's got her own, I don't know if it's daily, a YouTube stream that she does in the mornings, but you guys should check her out. She's somebody that is a independent kind of researcher and personality that doesn't acquiesce to any particular narratives that are out there. So I have high respect and praise for her. Go ahead, Alien Girl.
Oh my gosh, Ashton, that was like the nicest thing ever. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that was beautiful and so eloquent. And thank you so much for the shout out and putting that all out there. And thank you so much for all of the work that you've done. Um, you have such really good deep research skills. And that's something that I truly respect about you. Because every time I've ever had a question, it always would go down like a new path of learning. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, the point being is my question, just to clarify, this isn't you retiring from the community, is it? Like, you can't retire from the community. I think we need you, even if you're not getting. What's going on with this? Are you? Basically, I just raised my hand and came up here to tell you that you can't retire. Like, you can't. Don't tell me Ashton's leaving the community. That makes me sad. I don't like that community. I want the community where Ashton's still hanging around, talking about mummies, talking about all the other stuff we know you're interested in. It would be very sad to see you go. So that was all I wanted to say. Like, don't retire. Don't go.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you. We
I'm not
love you,
leaving the
Ashton.
community. I appreciate you, Alien Girl. No, I'm not leaving the community in total. You can't get rid of me that easily, unfortunately. Uh, but, I think that it's just the MH370 investigation that is retiring, right? So we've still got a few weeks left. There's still a few more pieces that I'm going to put out there regarding the debris and how it theoretically couldn't even have drifted from where they claim the plane crashed. The Immersat and the SATCOM, which apparently is very easy to hack, which is quite an interesting discovery. And then there's one more that I don't have off the top of my head, but there's at least a couple field pieces in there that I'm going to be putting out. But yeah, then after that, I'm just going to let it marinate out there for a while, And I think the 10-year anniversary is the right time to do it. That's where you imagine the discussion will pick up the most around it. And we will probably follow along and just see. Like, I may report from time to time in terms of what some of these other old school investigators are, coming up with. Whatever these news articles come out, maybe some other fisherman will claim to have pulled up the fuselage or something like that 10 years ago without any pictures. I'm not sure, but no. With respect to the community overall, the only reason why I say retirement from that perspective is that I don't know what's going to come next. And I think that for me, with respect to this kind of thing that I've done, this is the first time I've done anything like this on social media, but there were a couple times before this where I dug into some stuff on my own. And it's kind of like you got to wait for that thing to appear, right? And then you get this kind of feeling like, whoa, there's something here, there's something going on. Now, there is one thing that I'll throw out there. It's a little controversial, but I may dig into NASA a little bit, especially around some of the Mars stuff that's out there. There's a few topics that I think are pretty interesting that are being suppressed, potentially even including microbial life that has probably already been found on Mars. And I'm not a huge fan of NASA in general. I mean, I think that their mission statement's correct, but I just don't have a lot of faith in them as an organization. So maybe something related to that, or maybe just something entirely different. But I'm not going to force anything. I think that's really important. Is not to try to force the issue and take my time learning the science while we go along. So thank you, Alien Girl. Appreciate you a lot. Make sure you guys check her out. Want to go to Noah next? Hey, Noah, how's it going, man?
Ashton, thank you so much, sir, for putting me on the space. So everybody's been praising you, and I praise for you as well, because, when it comes to this topic, you truly do seem so approachable and so cool. Just an awesome dude. And so my question for you is, again, on a personal level, I don't know how much you'd like to divulge about this, but what kind of a person do you think you were before this whole experience started with MH370? How do you think you are now, if you've had any time to reflect on this experience whatsoever? And how has it changed you? And what do you see yourself doing moving forward, not just investigating the whole technology things, but it seems like what you went through really changed you, changed your whole perspective on everything. And so it really throws you on a different course. So I was just wondering if you had any contemplation about this whole experience. And then one more follow-up question. Since the anniversary is coming up, did you by chance happen to plan, or would you be open, sorry about the husky, open to plan anything like a big bang 10th anniversary media blitz, here's all the evidence, here's the videos, we're going to storm the White House press conference and ask if these videos are real, anything like that.
Nothing like huge like that, but I am thinking like
oh my God, please
I'm definitely going to put out the all evidence list and all my works, as well as all the podcasts I've done, and those will be things that'll probably be coming out in like the week or two before the anniversary in general. I am planning on at least, I think it's not official, but I'm probably going to go back on like Investigate Earth. So Chad got cut off there, but Chad and Shared Investigate Earth actually were the very first podcast that had me on out of anybody. And I've been on them like 4 or 5 times, quite a lot. And I appreciate them greatly. So I think that it would be a nice nightcap for them to be like the closing arc of it in general as well. And kind of just doing a summary of what I've learned and basically a lot of what your questions just were. So you'll get the inside answer right now, which is this has absolutely changed me in more ways than I can even say on the space at the moment. But it's definitely made me somebody that now like I see what's important in the world. I think is probably the way I would put it. Whereas before I was somebody that would do my job, go home, watch some Netflix, play some computer games, go to sleep, and repeat, right? Now I look at it and I go, there's more to this reality than we've even been told. There is science that's being suppressed that's just out there in the open, and that's how easy it is to suppress it, that anyone can learn it, that anyone can do an investigation like we've done and make a difference and have an impact. And all of those things just, I think to the post I made a few days ago where it was this clip of this music and over like some Malcolm Bendall and Elon Musk stuff. And Elon Musk has a really good clip in it, which I'm not like obsessed with Elon Musk in any way, shape, or form, but he's a very profound individual. And he says that you have to have a reason to wake up, something to look forward to in the morning. And that's what I think about what this case has done to me is I think, wow, I have a reason, is that we potentially can find technology and expose technology that can change the world that's been kept maybe hidden for decades on end. So yeah, I think that every aspect of my life has changed, and I think it's all been for the better. And it does, even though I'm not somebody who believes in fate, it does have this weird feel where it's like, was this meant to be? And I always kind of wonder that in the back of my mind while I still don't really believe in that kind of stuff. So yeah, does that answer your questions? Any follow-up?
Hey man, we love you, dude. Please take care of yourself. You've been quite amazing as far as like getting into new things. It was independent journalism. Something I found watching you on the Kim Iverson show was like unbelievable to me. That was so awesome. And just, you're an independent journalist now. And so you just fit right in, exploding on an independent journalism scene. And I think you've been so vital to this entire discussion. And you have a very ground-based, evidence-based approach. It's so good. So, bless you. Take care of yourself. Looking forward to your work in the future.
Thanks, Noah. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, and I think there's been so many good podcasters. One of my other things I want to do is hopefully grab some clips from some other podcasters that I've done, and that may bleed over into after the investigation has been retired, where I post some clips from some of them because, like I said early on, I want to try to give as much attention to alternative media in general and just have it kind of take over. I saw Chad jump back up here. Do you want to finish your thought that you had earlier? You were talking about the various comments that you were seeing on there. I don't know if you heard, but I did kind of give you guys a shout out talking about how we might do a kind of nightcap episode just to wrap up the case in general. But go ahead.
Yeah, sorry guys. I think Ashton kicked me. He wasn't liking my Hells Angels background of his life. Anyway, here's the thing. So we got on Spotify, started looking at these comments. And one of the things that I started to see was after 7 years of podcasting, when something's coordinated, when something is either botted or coordinated, and that happens. So I started seeing these similar comment, and they would always mention just X Ashton's name. And especially in particular ones that were just hardcore. I mean, it could be very similar comments across various episodes, but it seemed like there was a driving factor to almost even threaten us not to allow Ashton back on. And our podcast is, like I said, we are controversial. We're kind of used to getting threats or death threats. We've had that before based on our opinions or our thoughts. But when I started seeing it like as a coordinated effort towards Ashton, I called him and I said, "Hey, I know that you have faced a lot of hate and a lot of stuff like that, but have you seen stuff like this?" And as we know, Ashton's kind of already addressed, there is obviously toxicity in the UFO community. There's toxicity in many communities, but especially UFO community, because I think it's a battle right now. We are at a battle with reality. And what we have always known to be reality is about to drastically change. And whether that is the disclosure effort as far as UFOs, UAPs, the potential of the spiritual nature of UFOs or UAPs, and I don't think the government's hiding that necessarily. I think more so they're, to Ashton's point, I think they're hiding the advanced technology that they are working on, that there's 50% of the Pentagon budget that is unaccounted for. I think they're probably more than likely hiding that more than anything, but I heard a few of you actually talk about Jake Chansley. We actually had him on our podcast last night. Thanks, Ashton, for that. Well, it was a really deep episode where we talked about a lot of these things that we're representing now. But when Ashton said, he said, "Look, I think I'm going to kind of step away from this. I think it's the right thing to do at this moment." I agree with that, and I don't at the same time, because I do believe that what Ashton has uncovered and researched and studied, I think he is correct. And we've had tons of people come on our podcast to where there have been some people that I'm like, there's no way this is true. And I'll always give my opinions on the podcast based on that. And I'll even tell the people beforehand, I don't necessarily believe what you're saying, but I'll let you speak and we'll give our opinions. But we know for a fact that the technology we're seeing in these videos from MH370 exists. We know that. And I think that the biggest discrediting effort that is going on right now towards Ashton is the fact of this mass coordinated effort to discredit, or, Ashton believes right now, he said, "I don't want this to be my identity." And I get that. And by the way, I don't think it has to be, Ashton, because I think you're extremely smart in so many different revenues or avenues. But the reality is that's also what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that, hey, give it up, it's done, it's over. But I told Ashton, and Ashton, I believe that you're going to continue your research, especially as far as advanced technology and all these aspects. And I just want people to understand that when people go after someone and they attack somebody, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this with Ashton or whoever, most of the time, the people that they attack are the ones that are right over the target. And I've seen it. Like I said, we've had comments about this. We've had emails. We've had people, connect to us on X and Facebook and all this stuff, trying to almost threaten us not to have Ashton back on. But that's just all scare tactics. And regardless, I think that at the very least, we're very fortunate, Ashton, to have you a part of the space of trying to get to the bottom of what the hell is actually going on in today's world, because so many people are confused. And I think there's about to be a major breakthrough in reality that people are not going to be able to ignore very soon. And so, Ashton, I think you have done an amazing job, and our listeners agree. So that's all I want to say.
I appreciate you, Chad. I appreciate you guys a lot. So grateful for you guys to be the first ones that had me on. In general, I still think back to how I was pretty rude to you guys back then, because I was so confident in my own opinion that it couldn't be some kind of teleportation, and you guys were the ones telling me that it was. And ever since, I've been talking about how it is. I also remember how scared I was when I was on that as well, just because I had no idea what to expect. Kind of going to the point that was asked earlier by Noah, I think, how has this changed you? Like, I, thought that the government might silence people over this, but I think what I've learned as part of the investigation is, just as you said, the way that this works is a matter of discrediting people. Just like the post I made earlier about Salvatore Pais and his patents that are out there, people still say that you can patent anything, which is just not true at all. And that he had to go through a lot of rigorous process to get those patents approved. And that if you look at his Wikipedia page, like also Hal Puthoff's Wikipedia page and probably many other scientists, it's filled with narratives that are out there that are not supported by any evidence at all. It just says, oh, people claim this person's pseudoscience and stuff like, and all kinds of defamatory content. That's how they're able to keep it hidden from people. And because people only believe whatever the TV tells them, only believe whatever narratives they hear from their trusted sources, whether that be academics or whatever, that they just simply keep their mind closed to the possibility that something else can be real out there. It's much easier than I would have ever imagined to silence people. William, I see you've been going off mute. Do you want to jump in? You've been waiting for a while.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going, man?
I'm okay. I'm the proverbial man behind the curtain. I rarely step out of just chat and messages, but I wanted to number one, to honor you tonight. I've been attacking these kind of issues since the early 70s, so I'm kind of the old man in it. And I was in retirement, and it took somebody like you to bring me out of retirement and light a fire under my ass, which you definitely did. And I haven't been able to let go of it since. So I'm going to echo what everybody else says about you on here without having to repeat it all. And just thank you for that. And also, I'm plowing through Florence I think it's Duchang's book.
Yeah, Florence
and
Duchang.
yeah, as I'm kind of half the time with your science and half the time with that book. And as I've been reading into it, I'm realizing that she, except for the main issue of what happened to the plane, she pretty much lines with you very closely on, number one, all the stuff that was wrong out there, all the stuff that was made up, and she just thinks that the plane didn't land, we didn't disappear, and that's because I think she was writing Disappearing Act even before you came on the scene after the video. So I was interested before I didn't hear from you much anymore. I was interested to know if you've ever been in touch with Florence, if you ever thought about being in touch with her, because she certainly has done decades worth of great journalism and put an awful lot of effort into this story. And sad to see her not really get all the information if she doesn't have it. So I'll leave it with that. But thank you for, again, lighting that fire. It keeps me alive at this point. So.
Yeah. So, William, thank you very much for following along, man. I've seen you in the streams a lot as well. And I love all the people there in the streams where we're sitting here and we're just talking about like science, advanced science, and you still got 100, 250 people watching. That's the kind of stuff that encourages me in general, where I see that it's not just people wanting to watch reaction videos and video games and stuff like that. You've got like real people that want to learn important science that can help change the world, and I love it. I have been in touch with Florence Duchang. I did message her the other day. She was the first person I told about my decision to retire from the case, because I have been in contact with her periodically for the last about 4 months or so, and I've spoken to her on the phone several times. Plan to talk to her as well soon. Out of all the investigators that have been out there, she's the one that I respect by far the most. It's not even close. And I would have had no idea early on who the people would be that I would respect in investigators or not. I kind of thought that people would be more open-minded in general. And I found out that most of them weren't, especially all the independent group and Jeff Wise. They're completely closed-minded, full CNN brains, as I call it. Nothing that they haven't been told from the TV can be true. And I think this is how it was really easy for the government, in my opinion, to spoof and fake the Immersat pings and trick them all. Is that the Immersat, which is 100% tied to United States intelligence, they have a bunch of people in the military and generals and admirals on their board of directors, are literally the only evidence that's out there for this plane going into the South Indian Ocean at all. And I think that it just goes to show, really, that if you have people that are open-minded, you can find the truth of things. And I see Ulrich was requesting to come up. He and I have talked recently about this idea that if you prove the lie, that's how you can really get to the truth of things, is that you can prove that, no, this plane didn't crash into the South Indian Ocean. That can help to show what is the real truth then, even if it's a truth that's very difficult to believe. So I definitely plan on talking to Florence Duchang more in the future. If you guys want an awesome book, her book, Disappearing Act, kind of goes through not just her investigation and research, which I think she's done the most research out of anybody on the planet, even more than I've done, into every aspect of the plane flight, every aspect of all the people there. And it's written in the sense of like a direct first-person account of being on the plane, and a very compelling, dramatic story, which is really awesome. So definitely check that out. More to come with her potentially in the future, and couldn't think more highly of her than I do. Thank you, William. Now let's see who else we got up here.
We got Ulrich up.
Yeah,
hey, Ulrich, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, Mello? What's up, Ashton? Forgive me, I missed the start of this space. I've been up way too many days straight, and I fell asleep. But Ashton, I kind of wanted to know. I wanted to know two things. One, what's your did the way you sort of stay in touch with, like, not stay in touch, but have a sense for the normies or the rest of the world? Did you feel like, not that it got skewed, but I'll tell you my personal feeling is that the deeper you get into, let's say, more rarefied knowledge in UFO Twitter, I feel like there's some sort of, not reality distortion field, but I find it much harder to have a feel for, like, the collective unconscious. I feel like sometimes you can come across information that's mind-blowing, or a potential other reality. You can get so steeped in it in UFO Twitter, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But the more you're exposed to a really meaningful, unconventional reality, I find that it becomes more and more difficult to figure out what is the awareness of, like, the rest of the people. And I want to know if that's just me or if that's you as well. Like especially with the Grush stuff or UAPDA, right? Like, we can feel like, oh my goodness, this thing is about to get gutted, and then you step out into the rest of the world, and the rest is like, who's Grush? Like, what's going on? I wanted to know, like, are you feeling that too? For me, it's much harder to figure out, like, what's the average heartbeat of the rest of the world, whether you call them CNN brain or normies. And second thing I wanted to know, like, what is going to happen with, like, your personal life, because this has taken up a huge chunk of, like, your waking consciousness. Are you having a hard time figuring out what's meaningful for you in terms of a friend group, socially, without MH370 taking up all of your consciousness? I hope those questions make sense.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that from a friend group, I think that, everybody here that we've been talking to, that I've been meeting up with, I don't think anything's going to change on that front, right? I don't, this isn't any kind of pity party or anything like that for me in general. So yeah, I think that there's going to be more good stuff to come for sure in general. I think that it's just a situation where, this will always be out there, I think. And I think to the point of, like, what Chad and Sherry were saying is that they're correct. Like, I don't really want to, like, typecast myself with this. Maybe they're right, and that wouldn't necessarily be required. But, you have to realize the reality of the situation. And I think earlier I was saying this as well in terms of it kind of being like a black pill situation, where this is something that's so big that if these videos are real, there's people who would be potentially going to prison for life, people that would be being sued. The government would be getting sued, our U.S. government, for potentially tens of billions, maybe even up to trillions of dollars. Like, there are huge implications. People would do literally anything to hide this stuff. And it's not even just the videos. It's like just UFOlogy in general, in terms of what they've been hiding, and related to if UFOs are real, if aliens are real, if the technology is real, same implications. Like, huge liability for the people that have been hiding this. And that's the reason why I think some of them at least are so desperate to keep it hidden. And so that's the part that I'm going to be trying to focus on, is I want to expose the technology. I want to expose the people that I know are hiding the science behind this stuff. Even going back to the Eric Weinstein video that I posted, where he's talking about, can there really be physics that are being hidden? And the only thing that he got wrong, and I say this humbly, it sounds egotistical, but I do mean this as humbly as possible, is that it's not a matter of needing new physics. It's a matter of taking the physics we already understand and looking them through a new lens. It's a matter of looking at 0-point energy and saying we can open the system up and now we don't violate the laws of thermodynamics. It's saying that we don't need the object itself to move as fast as the speed of light, because we can bend gravity and put basically encapsulate the entire object in a gravity bubble that displaces it entirely. We can move the fabric of space itself and the object will go with it. Right? And if you look at it through these lenses, now we're not violating any of the principles of physics or engineering, right? And that's the stuff that I want to try to push the boundary forward on when it comes to the science and the cover-ups.
Ashton, I don't want to interrupt you answering my
Yeah, you're
question,
good.
but are you looking to have Weinstein on in one of your podcasts, maybe in combination with a couple of the other, alternative propulsion physicists?
I would love to have people on. I mean, so my podcast, like, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I think that there is right now a pretty negative stigma in general. I think I did say that I already recorded an episode with Mark Sokol, who is the founder of APEC as well as Falcon Space. I am planning on reaching out to some other scientists that I know that have done presentations on like APEC and things like that before. But yeah, if there are people that want to talk to me, feel free to put them in touch. I think I'm open to talking to pretty much anybody, especially when it comes to the science or when it comes to like the legislation around how we would try to get this information out from the third-party contractors, and everyone in between. People also that have done their own investigative research, like potentially someone in the future like Megan, right, who's been looking into the Nazca mummies. I think that that's another one that's probably as close to the MH370 thing, where you have this huge polarization. People get locked into their opinions, and very few people are digging into the facts of it. Like, those are the people, no matter how big or how small they are, is that I want to talk to and I want to hear from. Just like I, reached out to Timothy Alberino about his amazing experience going down to Peru. Good question.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you. And do you have a similar feeling that I have, that it's harder, that you're sort of losing touch of like the rest of the world? And that doesn't have to be a negative or positive thing, but like, do you know what I mean? Once you realize like, wow, there's all these lies, we've been lied to. It's harder for me to figure out, does it even make sense? Do you just keep on going down a rabbit hole and then you feel alienated or divorced from the CNN reality?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I haven't watched cable TV in probably like 8 years or more, honestly. So part of that, you definitely feel a little bit disconnected from it. But that kind of goes back to the Elon Musk quote, about needing a reason to wake up in the morning and want to, make things better. I would say that I'm an idealist, so absolutely you see it from that perspective, but you have to learn how to use the system itself as well, right? And even if there are a lot of people that are asleep at the wheel, that are engrossed entirely in the Kardashians and TikToks and things like that of the world, at some point they'll flip over as well, right? This is something I think I was talking with Mello about in another space, but the idea that you reach an inflection point, right? It may really be that those disclosure celebrities and stuff that are out there, they've already gotten ahead of this and they've realized that it's not even a matter of getting the science out, but it's a matter of changing minds one at a time. And when you get to a point where you have a significant percentage, I'm just going to throw a number out, 70% of the general populace believes that aliens are real or whatever, that all of a sudden there will just be an inflection point that happens and everything will come out at once. Because I think that all these things are tied together. If you were to believe hypothetically that aliens are visiting us, then it's like, well, how the heck are they getting here, right? And so, okay, now we have to have these crafts that need to be able to move faster than light, or we have to come up with some other explanation. So I think that I have hope for people in general, and I don't look down upon anyone, even people that I think are kind of, asleep or in the slumber and not really paying attention to the nature of reality. It's not something that concerns me too much. I just want to help as many people as possible, honestly.
And last thing then, for this tipping point, right? Like a psychological tipping point where let's say the majority finally accept, all right, something crazy is going on. I've maintained that what you need is either a public display of like, UFOs landing on the White House lawn, or somebody connecting telepathically with an alien and making them come down somewhere physically, or you need a proof of concept, a public display of this advanced propulsion, or you need essentially a New York Times of ufology or of the paranormal. Are you viewing things in a similar way, that you're saying like, all right, I want to actually like just prove the tech to make that flip happen?
Why is it? Did it crash? What the hell?
I'm not hearing anything and not seeing any subtitles. Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you, Mello, but I can't hear anything either.
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, cool. We might be having some connection issues with our host.
Hear, but I can't get up
but hey, Orch, that was fascinating. While we're Ashton, give some signs of life if you're with us. In the meantime, Maybe you could do a reset or something. But yeah, it kept coming up with our friend Megan, and
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Just crashed. Oh shit.
getting one of them, there's a channel.
Okay, I'm back.
Sub-channel.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, he's back. Anyway,
Yeah, my thing crashed.
there's a mummy thing there. Is the end of that story. Hey, Ashton.
Hey, yeah. So, sorry, Ulrich, did I miss your last question? Oh, yeah. So the tipping point, right? So, in terms of the tipping point, yeah, I think that that's part of the reason why I dig into the science, right? I think that's a way where we can open up more minds to things. And I'm just absolutely 100% certain that the science behind both the videos as well as all the other stuff that I proposed out there is real, and that I would never have been put in touch with a lot of the people that I've talked to on podcasts, behind the scenes, etc., were it not for this stuff being real in general. So one of the things I say in that regard is part of the reason why I'm retiring as well is that we don't even need the videos anymore in order to be able to prove a lot of this stuff, right? As well as to even be able to prove the conspiracy behind it. We don't even really need the videos anymore because we've just found so much evidence. So that's part of the reason why I've said, okay, well, let's just take this polarizing topic, which is the MH370 videos, which 370, sorry, is that, you've got so many people that believe this narrative of this pilot suicide. Let's just let people marinate on it for a while. They're never going to find that plane. They're never going to be able to prove that it was any type of pilot suicide because that's not what happened. And so I don't need to really focus on that. Instead, let's focus on changing minds through other means. That's true opinion. Let's see, who has it? Danny, I think I saw you come up and down several times. Did you want to say something? Or Mike, one of you guys? I think both of you guys have been waiting.
Yeah, I can hop in. Ashton, brother, you were like a dog on a bone, and it was really great to watch, to the point where over the last 2 months, like, I would come home from work and like wait for the live stream. It's been really great to watch. I just hope it doesn't take 35 years like Bob Lazar, where people start to look back and say, hey, wait a minute, let's take another look at this. I love how you're leaving it with a drop the mic moment. You're like kind of saying, Your Honor, I rest my case. Here, all evidence update with like 60 bullet points. It's like, yeah, it's a circumstantial case, but when you add all this up, it points to a certain thing. I just have 2 quick questions for you. Has this work affected your work life? Did they know about it? Would you talk about it? And number 2, is it a hard no from Joe Rogan and Lex? It would be a shame to see them not interview you.
And sorry, what was the first part of the question before the podcast question? Because I did actually want to address the podcast thing, but I was just in my own thoughts there.
Oh, just your work life. Like, did your coworkers know about this?
Oh yeah, okay, that's a fun little story too. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna first go to the podcaster thing in general. So yes, I have the utmost respect for all those podcasters. I don't even blame them for believing the videos might be hoaxes or too controversial in some cases for people. Even with Gaia, I think that Gaia wanted me on, and then they talked to their board of directors and they nixed it because it was too electric for them, which I thought was pretty funny coming from Gaia. But I have no disrespect at all for any of them. And if they ever in the future want to talk to me and have me on their shows, absolutely. I think it would even be better if it happens at some point in the future and not necessarily right now, just due to the nature of how polarized everything is. I think that if you look in potentially a year from now, 5 years from now, I think the landscape will change significantly, especially when you look at the disclosure movement in general and you see how rapidly people's views are changing. That I think people will become much more accepting, and people will look back at these videos as time goes on and these other narratives continue to find no evidence, as we continue to find no plane. People will start to realize, wait a minute, yeah, we probably had to know what happened to that plane, and You know, as crazy as this guy's theory is out there, it seems to make the most sense, right? It has the most evidence, and it's just a matter of people realizing it, in my opinion. Then with respect to the coworker stuff, that's pretty funny as well. There were a very small number of people that did recognize me from various appearances. I had one ex-coworker from like 15 years ago, back when I was living in another state, where they emailed me and they go, "Are you the same Ashton Forbes that I used to work with?" And I said, "That's the very one." And I thought that was a pretty funny connection. There was a couple people at work that saw me on some of the earlier podcasts, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to jump in your Discord, but I'm not going to say who I am or anything, and I'm just going to lurk." And then there was somebody as well. I used to play Pokemon Go back when I lived in California many years ago, or I guess not many, but a few years ago. And one of them messaged me on Discord as well and was like, "Hey, was that you I saw on the Tim Pool podcast?" And I was like, yeah, that's me. So it's interesting. Nobody has recognized me in person, which I'm kind of glad for. What I will say is there was somebody, one of the podcasters, one of the producers, I was talking in the car with them, and they were saying, like, you've kind of got the best of both worlds where you're like got this weird internet fame, right? But you don't have that fame where like people are going to like see you on the streets and recognize you, right? And it's kind of nice because I never wanted to be somebody who's famous. I think there's the younger generation. I think the TikTok generation really thinks of it as being this glorious, glamorous thing. But I don't look at it that way and never have. I've always just wanted to be a normal person. So I think this is also a good opportunity to still be a normal person, but still put this mark on the UFO community in general, set the standard for some of these investigations in the future, as well as really put out into the zeitgeist, especially around MH370, this idea of this fire scenario, as well as the government taking the plane, that takes some of the conspiracies that were out there, conspiracy theories around the plane, and just provides a whole lot of evidence. Like, we threw out this idea of these patents that are talked about in the Dick Gregory video that you can see out there, and that none of those people were actually on the plane. But it doesn't mean that those Freescale semiconductors weren't the motive, right? It almost seems like that was a little bit of a distraction. And just finally, I want to repeat something, which is that this case is not distracted from UFO disclosure in any way, shape, or form. I hate this idea that a lot of people in the conspiracy theory world say about so-and-so is a distraction, this is a distraction, as if like you can only think about one thing at the same time. I just think that's totally absurd, and I think that that's used as a mechanism to just dismiss people instead of trying to think about things logically and clearly. So if anyone can show me any evidence that somehow this case has distracted from overall larger disclosure efforts, I'd be happy to consider it, but I don't think it's out there. Jenny, I see you have your hand up, and thank you, Mike, for those questions. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
or actually, I want to go to Danny because Danny has been waiting, and then we'll go to you, Jenny.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you, bud. How's it going?
Oh, brilliant. Well, I'm in the UK, so it's quite late here, but I've been listening intently, and I just wanted to say that Ashton, really well done for the last few months, whatever you've been doing this, and I've been following it intently. But I just wanted to get down to some specifics, if I can. I'm really interested in the Diego Garcia angle because I think that there's obviously a lot of evidence that points in that direction. I'm just wondering where Ashton feels about that specific point in particular before I ask another question.
Oh yeah, so Diego Garcia, in my opinion, that's the only logical place for the plane to have gone, presuming it didn't crash, which is what we've basically been saying. The reason being is that there's too many radar systems in countries that would not be allied that you have to cover up. It's even hard to think about covering up Malaysia, Thailand, India, Indonesia, and Australia, which is pretty much what's required just for this narrative of the South Indian Ocean and what have you, and even going to Diego Garcia. But with respect to it going like north, and through to Russia or something, there's way too many countries. And if like Russia had taken the plane, we would probably have exposed it. We wouldn't have just been quiet. I mean the United States. But you have this island, Diego Garcia, that all these conspiracy theories had talked about this being the place, and you look into it, and nobody even knew about it. In my opinion, it's the new Area 51. The same way Bob Lazar made Area 51 on the map, this case, and not necessarily my case here with the MH370, but even beforehand, put Diego Garcia on the map. I had no idea what Diego Garcia even was before people started talking about conspiracy theories. And you look into it, and you're like, there's a lot of corroborating evidence. You have these people that were like a couple hundred miles north on this small island, these islanders who don't see jumbo jets, seeing the jumbo jet of Malaysian Airlines flying over them at like 6 in the morning. And there's like 20 different people that saw it. And they all get dismissed because it wasn't coming from the right direction. Well, if you can teleport a plane somewhere, then you can come from any direction, right? And then you have this EXIF data picture where, it was debunked by the same people that debunked the videos. That it shows Philip Wood having supposedly taken a picture from a prison cell that has EXIF data pointing the location, geolocation, to Diego Garcia. It's the logical place where no radars would see it out there. It's actually a good place as well for testing this kind of technology. So to me, if I'm at Vegas or whatever, I mean, I can't prove it, but I would just throw all my money down there. If we're playing poker, I'd say time to flip over the cards, show me what you got. If we're playing roulette, it's all going on Diego Garcia.
Yeah, so that leads on to my next question, which was about the Philip Wood photo and the data that came from that, but also to the fact that a lot of like you, I'd never really heard of Diego Garcia before until MH370 went missing, and then you look at it and you think, well, that, like you said, it's like an Area 51 in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere, and it's actually British land, which is like leased to America for them to have an air base on. But there was another bit of evidence that was deleted. I don't know if you know about this, but there was a satellite picture of an aircraft, same size as MH370, on the airstrip or slightly off the airstrip on Diego Garcia a few weeks or months later. Then it disappeared. And that's why I thought there must be a connection with the plane that went down in the Ukraine. Because it was a Malaysian aircraft, it was the same type of aircraft. It was so many similarities there. I just wondered whether you'd thought about whether they done something there.
Yeah, I had heard that. It's funny because that's a lead that I'd heard that, but I hadn't seen enough corroborating evidence to run with that. But I had heard that people had seen it in some picture or something on Diego Garcia in general. The thing that I find is really interesting that we found out part of the case was in June of 2014, there was some kind of flooding that destroyed the flight logs of Diego Garcia, which is pretty weird because you'd think in 2014 they'd have everything on electronic, but somehow they still had paper logs for it that flooding was able to destroy. And that's pretty damn convenient. Also, I think that one of the princes, Prince Harry or one of them went out there as well, like right around that period of time. We also found a Facebook picture dating back to like March 8th that shows there was no departures for Diego Garcia 72 hours after March 8th. So there's a lot of really, really weird stuff. And that's the place where you would hide it. We even found dredging contracts with Black Construction, as well as a Lockheed Martin power and water upgrade contract that for the dredging, we presumably would be for building like underground stuff in general, which I think there's absolutely has to be something underground in Diego Garcia. Basically nothing on the surface changes over 20 years, and yet you've got $50 to $100 million of contracts those are just the ones we found easily that are for construction there. And Black Construction does like really advanced construction projects. And then you also see that the planes on the runway after 2014 and Google Earth Pro just disappear. There's all these planes, huge planes on the runway. And then after that, every picture, there's no like 1 or 0 planes on the runway. You could say maybe it has to do with Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever. But another approach is, what if there's just an underground hangar and some kind of elevator that they can bring them down, right? So to me, again, that's the place, right? Nowhere else seems logical. They also potentially didn't ditch the plane. A lot of people ask, well, what if they just ditch the plane like a week later in the South Indian Ocean so that there's some cover up for it, right? Or even a year later, or anytime. The problem with that is the black boxes. You'd also have to falsify all the data on the black boxes, which would be extremely difficult because otherwise they're going to pull those black boxes up and we're going to find out the plane didn't fly south in the South Indian Ocean, that it took some other roundabout approach.
So I just have one last question.
Yeah,
and
go for it.
And you've got 227 passengers, 10 crew members. So you've got over 230 potential mobile phones. And with God knows how many different networks and stuff. And we know from mobile phone data that a lot of it like can be pinpoint and linked to satellites, etc. So I don't understand how 230 plus mobile phones and their data and their locations can just also vanish. That's my other point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why 19 family members signed a joint statement begging the government to look into the fact that the phones were still ringing for up to 4 days afterwards, which is very unusual. They had some fake, I call them fake experts, quote unquote, go on CNN and try to argue about how it could still be happening, but it's not going to be happening in 19 different phones for up to 4 days, including one person proving it on Chinese television. Right. And to me, this just goes to show how easy it is for people to get lied to. Right. Anybody could just turn your phone off, which is what would happen the moment it's underwater in salt water for like 15 minutes. And you could try to call it and you're not going to get a ring. Right. And that's what I think is wild, is that they should have been able to look into that. And I think the bigger question is, like, how does the phone service and signal work if they're on a place like Diego Garcia, which is a base where you can't have commercial flights land on? Which also begs the question of how Philip Wood was even able to get a message out and what was the nature of that whole situation. But we just don't have enough data to really figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I think that all the stuff that you brought up are some of the really strongest evidence for why this is a really odd mystery and why the evidence there doesn't add up to this scenario that's been pushed, which is this pilot suicide narrative. Any last follow-up on that? Otherwise, I want to go to a couple other people here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. On YouTube, my channel is The Public Detective. I appreciate everything you've done, and keep going. Don't give up.
Thanks a lot, Danny. Yeah, and so I think that we're only going to go for probably another 10, 15 minutes or so. So I want to get a couple of other questions here and people that have been able to come up. Jenny, you've been waiting with your hand up patiently. Go ahead.
Real quick, I just wanted to say, you said standards. Watching you present the information, going through the debunking process when Kim offered the amount of money, watching you address that and then come back from that was an excellent standard. And I think that type of a standard, when we present information and go through the process of finding out whether or not it's factual, you did create an amazing standard. And like you just said a minute ago, before that gentleman who you've got me thinking, like, where is the cell phone data and the material that was, it couldn't have hit the water because there's no material. I just watched a long program explaining that. So, this is just ridiculous to try to satiate our minds with bullshit. And one thing, like, they're lying to us. Somebody's lying. Somebody knows something and they're not telling us as usual. But what you also said, Ashton, was that when somebody says that angle isn't correct, there's 360 degrees to every angle, and there's multiple perspectives all over the place. So everybody has their position and the way that they present information to create a full perspective. So, to think that your viewpoint and only one is the right and only one is just stupid. So enabling everybody to take their own information processing system between their ears and follow their data out, especially in the standard at which you did, Ashton, I think will lead the truth community into something that's, really incredible. And when it comes to communities, this is a humanity. That's the community. The community is humanity. The fact that whether or not we'll be able to survive the technology that they're keeping secret from us, and why are we the enemy? And, like, it's a humanity community. So it's not just UFO, this, that, and the other, because I fly through all of them. And you, the type of truth seeker that you are, you belong to all of them, especially the team humanity. So that's what I wanted to say. And thank you. And man, the guy that just went before me, you have got me thinking. Thank you for your questions. It was great to listen to.
Yeah, no, I thank you very much. And this isn't meant to be like a big rah-rah Ashton thing, but I do absolutely appreciate everybody here.
Rah-rah freaking Ashton, okay? It's all right. It's okay, because supporting each other, that's what a real person can do, is somebody can be a badass and other people can say, good job, without feeling jealous or ego weird. We can celebrate each other when we kick ass, and you just did. So take it. Damn it.
No, I will. I appreciate it, Jenny. And I definitely look forward to more conversations with you and everybody else in the future. And I think that combined as a community, regardless of what ends up happening with the case here, is that there's other stuff that we're going to be able to uncover, right? I think the nice thing about the UFO community, even though I kind of, gave criticism to both sides there, is that everybody wants the same thing, right? They just want to get to the truth. And they want to know whatever that truth is. So I think that we will get there 100%. And I don't know how long it'll take. I hope that it happens before I leave this planet, metaphysically or directly, literally. Okay, so a couple more people. Martin, I saw you jump up. Do you want to say anything? I appreciate you, sir.
You talking to me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, good to talk with you, Ashton. I just want to say once again, I really appreciate your accessibility in trying to get in touch with you, not directly about the MH370 thing, although that was compelling and really got me thinking about a number of other things, but also just as an opportunity to talk about the physics uh, behind the whole subject whenever you feel is an appropriate time, and with whoever else might see this. I'm kind of a one-on-one person, and so I'm not really shy, but I'm just not. I kind of I'm interested in what other people have to say as well. So I just I want to say just say that if you check out my also and a shout out to as well to Roy Herbert, who has helped me in developing some followers in this regard on X. But there's, I mean, I early on I saw what I saw were inconsistencies in trying to put uh, general relativity and quantum mechanics or quantum field theory together. And I had a very simple question uh, that I asked, and I came up with and I won't go into it here, but I came up with a response. I went to a local university, which was Duke, which has a good uh, 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 academy as far as having the experts there. But they sent me to string theorists, and I had a question for them. They gave me gave me an opportunity to give a response to that. But when I couldn't come back with a immediate answer to them, I kind of got cut off. And I've had that kind of, but this is like almost 30 years ago, and I've spent my time since then learning what I needed to learn to get more versed in the whole subject. So I just want to first of all thank you, and anything any way we can put our heads together on this subject, because I think it is real. I think technology's there, and I can understand it from my perspective, but I have to talk with other people and get them involved so that they can see where I'm coming from, and we can build a body of or knowledge for which to try to penetrate this whole subject on a technical level. And there's some economic aspects of this as well, but that's a whole nother subject, and I won't go into that now. And some spiritual aspects, but once again, we can talk about those things later. So
yeah, thanks, Martin. And I just want to point out that Martin is a colleague of Roy D. Herbert, who's been on the Hard Truths podcast. Roy D. Herbert tutored me a lot on the physics, especially early on when I was trying to wrap my brain around it. I did post Martin's summary of the works that he's put in, 5 different papers that are out there. I read through it, and interesting story, Martin. This was crazy. As part of just talking to other people, scientists and engineers, I had been pointed to the works of somebody named David. Oh crap! I have to pull it up. David Maker's work. And after somebody replied on, or I think they messaged me after I posted your papers in the summary, and they said, "This is really similar to David Maker's work. Have you looked at his work at all?" And I actually did a stream on it later that night, looked at it, and it is really similar. You should check it out. I think his website's actually just davidmaker.com.
Okay.
So there's definitely, like, what I've come to realize, guys, is that the unification theories have already been put out there. They're in the public zeitgeist. It's probably just a matter of reconciling them, but they're all very, very similar, right? They all have to do with unification of the forces. And just kind of how they go about that approach, and looking at space-time as this medium, and not something where there's
Correct.
just nothing there, right? And that's
Correct.
what's awesome about Martin and Roy's work and everybody else that we've talked to. So definitely, guys, check their stuff out. If you want to be somebody who's kind of enlightened on it, it's obviously very difficult if you don't have the scientific background, but you can build that foundation up to the point where it starts to make more and more sense.
I was just on his pen tweet and looking at like the waveforms and what you all are concentrating on, and I keep hearing these two party differences. We've got heart mind, we've got right left, we've got up down, and then when you look at physics or the physical matter compared to non-physical matter, and just within senses of what we can detect, these two things need to be conjoined. And that's what I feel is happening. There's a bottleneck occurring to where we're starting to understand physical matter as well as non-physical matter and the existence together in the medium at which it travels. I just really hope that in the future, consciousness studies maintain part of that. We've got, different things with random number generators and our ability to focus on something. And once we observe it, it changes its physical state. So these things have to, hopefully this generation is what we spent years and years in different laboratories. And the combination of these labs together, not just falling 100% physical or 100% non-physical, is just vital. It's very exciting looking at your pen post, the fellow who was just speaking, and geez, Ashton, the people you gather together and the scientists that come who are interested in this is fantastic. I think that's something, that magnetics, thinking about magnets, it's something about you and your community.
Thanks. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I think that that's one thing that I realize is special about this particular case, right? And it's not that it proves that it's real, but it shows that there are very smart people who are in the scientific field who are looking at these videos and going, whoa, that actually checks out from a theoretical physics and engineering standpoint. This is why you have people like Roy D. Herbert jumping into my replies, wanting to talk about phase transitions and me just learning all about that, as well as why you have people like Salvatore Pais who are eager to talk to me, right? And now I don't want to reveal too much in general, but like he's not going on podcasts as much anymore all of a sudden, right? So I think that it does lend an aura of credibility to the science behind what we've been disclosing out there. And once again, I will say, because we're getting near the end, I'm 100% sure that this type of advanced science is real. It seems impossible, but it's real. The way that it ends up being real is that our universe is a construct. If you look at it like that, you add an extra dimension that we don't perceive, all of a sudden everything becomes possible. And I know that's hard to understand and hard to believe for normie people that are out there, maybe some people that are listening right now, but that's the truth that I've come to realize through the course of the investigation. Let's do one more question, unless there's somebody else who wants to come up last minute. But George, I think you've been waiting patiently, sir. I've seen your posts. I appreciate you commenting, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. I would just wanted to echo what has just been said here in the last few minutes. It was the body of the serious scientific body of discussion that drew me to the image, what you've been putting together. Just by way of background, I was a litigator for about 25 years, so I know how to put a case together, and you assemble arguments that are based in very difficult topic very well, and breaking those down into things that are understandable to a regular audience is very, very hard. And I noticed that immediately, and that's what drew me to it, because there's a lot out there. I'm only kind of moderately interested in the UFO topic. I saw the MH370 documentary like everybody else, thought it was very interesting. I thought the squirrely way that the government people were all behaving was a huge red flag, and so that's kind of what I hung my hat on, that somebody's clearly lying, and so a lot of somebodies are clearly lying, and it was rather obvious just from a behavioral standpoint. But the only reason I was really interested in revisiting it again was because of the scientific. After about 5 years ago, I switched, and now I'm an amateur researcher in anti-gravity topics. And I've been working on it with a bunch of other amateur researchers and developers and inventors for about 4 or 5 years. And I am absolutely convinced that it's totally real, that it is entirely possible what we saw in that video. I've followed Sal Pais's work, Hal Puthoff, all the current people on these topics for years. It's what I do now. And I can tell you that I have no doubt about that whatsoever. The only quibble is I really understand teleportation. And if I had to put in my 2 cents on the scientific side, I would say that what that thing was doing was that it was circling the plane, which is not a gravitic vehicle, to create a gravity bubble around it so that it could move really, really fast. I don't really understand teleportation, but I think it was just zooming it out of there so fast that no camera or even a human eye could see it, and could do that without ripping the plane apart. They could have it then come back to normal speeds anywhere they wanted. And Diego Garcia is the perfect place for that. Just land it, jam all the frequencies on the phones, and then do whatever they were planning to do for whatever purpose they had. So that would be my belief in probably the most likely scenario from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, no, I thank you, George. And yeah, I think that that's what made this all so compelling to people in general, right? Is that it wasn't just rehashing the investigation that was out there and the case of the plane. It was also looking at through this lens of the scientific aspect, right? And I think that that's what got so many people curious about it, even myself as well, because I'm somebody that I love science. I'm actually a logical and reasonable person, other than the fact that I sit here talking about a plane being able to be teleported. But even surprising to me, dug into the science and realized that it actually is not outside the realm of possibility. It's just very, very difficult to believe in general. I see Mello had dropped. I don't know if you have to go, Mello, but thank you very much for being co-host. If you do, I'll pull you back up for a second. But yeah, thank you very much, George, and thank you for following along with this case. And I hope you continue to follow along with the science, and anybody out there as well that does find other scientific aspects that they want me to look into, please ping me on them, tag me on them. I see you guys doing that. I appreciate a lot of it. If I don't react, it's probably just because I didn't see it. Go ahead.
Yeah, one other quick question about the topic. Since there was a fire, apparently there was a fire in the cargo hold, right? What is there any thought be given to what the people might have been dead at that point or died afterwards, or if that entered into it? I mean, it's hard to believe they brought 300 some live people to Diego Garcia and then just offed them.
Yeah, no, good question. It's a dark question, but that's the part. Really, honestly, that's the one aspect I'm still struggling with, is trying to determine whether or not the people had potentially already died from the plane. There's a few different possibilities. Could be that the masks didn't last long enough, and the plane was, even though it was flying low, didn't give enough oxygen to the passengers. Could be that they succumb from the smoke, because you're battling this fire, and what the fire extinguishing devices do is they suck the oxygen out of the area as well. So this is a very, very dangerous situation. There's even a fringe scenario where, like, the Iranian passengers that had these fake passports were potentially intelligence operatives, and that they either took control of the plane or that they put some gas on the plane that either knocked everybody out or something worse. And then after that, if we do see this macroscopic phase conjugation, it's not even certain you could survive an event like that without there being some protective barrier, which we've speculated is possible, but we don't know, right, for sure, because as like Captain Dan Hanley has shown, is that there is this ability of remote autopilot where they could have, even if after teleporting the plane, you could still remote control that plane to the ground without the pilots even. So it's very speculative, of course. I think that, in my opinion, whatever happened, most of the people, if not everybody, didn't survive, because I've got on good authority that a lot of the people have moved on. So they would have had to put a lot of people into various programs where they're never going to see their family again. And some of these people were like children and stuff like that too. It just seems very, very difficult to pull that off, especially when people were married and things like that. And a lot of these people ended up moving on and remarrying and things like that. So it's a tough situation. And my heart goes out to the families of the victims, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question, though. Really good question. And that just goes to one more point that I was going to make, is that I do plan to do another piece called espionage, because I've come to believe that the super weird letter to me might actually be the true story of what happened to the plane. It's not the story that I had been telling, but the more that I've thought about it, especially around a lot of the details, is it pulls back in like all the evidence for espionage and even adds a few new elements that makes the espionage scenario even more plausible. And it also then explains some of the aspects that I had a hard time explaining, like why is the drone able to why is the drone there, and then why is it able to intercept a plane even in an hour and 20 minutes? That's a very short period of time to put together a whole plan where you have like orbs teleporting the plane. It makes a lot more sense that it would be something to be planned out months in advance that they're pulling off this type of operation. So be on the outlook for that. I've been pulling together the evidence from the case as well as the stuff that Florence DeChangy found to present this scenario that I think weirdly makes the most sense, which is that it could potentially have been an espionage operation from the start.
There's actually a woman who's been in spaces lately who's been coming around talking about Operation Gladio and their work within the world powers, and the fact that they actually use training grounds in order to,
Hey,
you know,
Ashton.
they use
hold on,
people,
Mike, one second.
basically.
Oh, sorry.
Jenny's
So I
finishing,
just,
then you can
I
go,
just
Michael.
want to, I just want to put that
Sorry.
to you because I know that they have very close ties with all of the different intelligence agencies across the globe, and these are people who, you know, run out clandestine anything in any situation, every major event, J6, 9/11, things like that. Like, and I know that sounds conspiracy-like, but we all know Operation Gladio was a real thing post World War II, and you know, we're also looking at. I just felt
Hey, Arwen.
compelled to say that to you because, you know, the biggest and the largest, most succinct technology was in the hands of these people, and really they work as an arm of the CIA, the UN. So that just got scary for me, but that's all I'm going to say on that one.
Yeah, no, I think that the thing that creeped me most out about the letter when I first heard it too is the last paragraph where it talks about, it just rings true, this idea that how do you stop someone who has unlimited power, that controls the media, that can craft a perception of events. And I think that anybody who has looked at any conspiracies, and I wasn't even one who was really conspiratorial minded, but I still realized that yes, like the government does have that capability. And through the course of the investigation, especially as we've been getting ghosted by the government, by all the main medias, I realized that yes, they do have 100% control of the media, you know, and that's probably the scariest part. So that is also one of the reasons why I've started to think more and more and more about this espionage scenario, which seems to make a lot more sense than this idea of a random fire. Like, why are there 500 pounds of lithium-ion batteries on this plane, right? Like, that shouldn't even be on the plane. And why were they lying about it for a week until after they developed their cover story? And then, you know,
it would be impossible to test and something like that of that magnitude. It would almost be impossible to test it because you'd have to test, right, without someone seeing it. And that's really the things that have happened is tests have been done consistently, and civilians have been victims of those things. And the clandestine part of it has been we've seen an uptick in technology that we cannot recognize, like the Tic Tacs, all those different things. So they've had to do some part of disclosure because we've seen it. So, I mean, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's scary, and that's why I'm going to present the case for it, even though I'd been avoiding it for months and months and months. But and then in the month since that video came out, that weird letter. But I think that the more I've thought about it over the last month, and I've started to piece stuff together, one of the other aspects that I'll kind of spoil related to it, which because I've reported on it, is one that Florence DeChangy found, which was that the nephew of the pilot was told that his uncle was collateral damage, and you think about that and you go, what scenario could someone be collateral damage, right? And it goes to that letter, right? The idea that we took the plane and that those other people are never coming back. Whatever happened to them, I can't say for sure, but it speaks to the espionage scenario. Everything seems to line up that way, as weird as it is to sound. But yeah, let's go to Michael, and then I think we'll hit Moneypenny, and we'll probably call it after that. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, thank you, Ashton. I'm sorry I stepped on your toes, Jitty. My spaces is being weird. I just wanted to say, Ashton, you know, once again, thank you for stepping up to the plate with this. I don't know how I found the video. I know it was through your page, sometime in, I guess, late August. But I still like remember the first time I saw the video and looking at the aircraft and thinking, "Holy, this is real." Before I ever saw the orbs. And having talked, living near Air Force Base where they do a lot of testing of optical systems and stuff, I have friends that I've showed the video to, and one of them looked at me first 2 seconds and 5 seconds into the video, looked at me and said, "That's old stuff. That was like 10 years ago." So I can't wait to see your last or to watch your last podcast episode and share it on the internet for everybody to see the final evidence for the case. And I'll leave it at that and just say thank you for doing this. And
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you very much. And yeah, I will try to make all the podcasts that I've done available as well, at least the ones that were respectful in general, so that people can watch through them and have them as a resource if you want to dig through. I know I've got a lot of requests for that in general, which makes me really happy, just because it goes to show that there is a reason for all that effort. And I would encourage people to watch the ones that aren't necessarily just the big name people as well, but some of the smaller ones as well have been really insightful and really good conversations. So let's go to Moneypenny, who's been hanging out in a lot of the spaces. We've had a lot of great discussions. She's also somebody that's been doing a lot of her own investigative research, especially around the patents and the technology. And I know she's got a passion for it. So real quick before she talks, I'll say, make sure you guys are following some of the people that I've been giving shout outs to here. I think they've been doing amazing work. And it's been awesome to meet all these people in the community. Go ahead, Moneypenny.
Hey, Ashton, I feel like I've spoken to you every day now. You're almost my boyfriend, my virtual boyfriend, I wish. You could certainly make a good martini, like James Bond for Moneypenny, perhaps. Oh. I was just here, really, to repeat what I said yesterday. Obviously, I think this is a sensible, mature step to take. I was initially devastated in the thought that you were leaving us completely bereft without you. But I would like to emphasize on what you kindly said. You have inspired many. I am just one. But unfortunately, I am a nerdy, scientific, former BBC investigative journalist, and this has gripped me. And I wanted to just explain to people in 5 words the achievements you have made. Because for anyone that thinks he has not made and concluded or made progress, that is most absolutely wrong. Because whilst MH370 puzzle may not be solved and may never be solved, the actual progress, the movement forward that Ashton has made through his own investigative, inquiring mind, and if you look at his profile, you will see videos from all sorts of, not necessarily famous, but brilliant quantum physicists, scientists, engineers, all these people worldwide who, like many of us now, are aware that there is incredibly advanced technology that our governments and the people around us that seek to censor us are also censoring very amazing different types of technology experiences, free energy, and lots of things that commercially would have a huge amount of benefit from us. And my particular passion is to unleash that. And I began it with Ashton's backing and support, and I will continue to do so. I have my own YouTube channel, Moneypenny Media, which has a whole load of me being silly on TikTok, but also some of the science stuff I'm going to increasingly put on it and try and emulate my hero in Ashton. But in all seriousness, some of the stuff he mentioned, patents, plasmoid technology, avionic propulsion systems that require no energy, that are based on things that most of us have never even heard of before. If you will look at my profile, and if you're interested, I'd love to hear from you, because I'm hoping to go ahead and hold a series of spaces with the wonderful Mello at my side, who has been an absolute rock as well. So if you are interested, and if you would like to find out more and bust some more government walls down, or Secret Service walls down, please just get in touch. Ashton, we all love you. Thank you very much. And I'll let you go and get your martini now.
I appreciate you, Moneypenny. That's awesome. Mello, do you have any last thoughts for us?
Yeah, sorry, I had to use the elevator, so I didn't mean to abandon my post assisting you in this awesome space with all these beautiful people. But yeah, I have a space that's starting just any minute now. I mean, no rush, of course. So we're going to get into some of those topics, including collaborative things with Miss Moneypenny, which is, we have the UAP Cablegate thing, which is a Ashton community-inspired hive mind thing. There's also the whole project that we're collaboratively working on, which will be the world's first symposium online for free or new or clean energy. And that's been an exciting thing. We're looking as a target date for that for the summer solstice, soon after Contact in the Desert, whoever wants to meet up there. So anyway, yeah, it all ties into the same mission. So you're all warmly welcome, and it's an honor to be with you people.
Thank you very much. And I just actually saw as well Tony Merkel jump in the chat. I just want to give a shout out to Tony Merkel as well, the Confessionals guys. You should definitely be following him. He's the first person that had me on in order to do an in-person podcast, and that really elevated the case to a much higher level. He was also, easily the most respectful in-person podcast that I did. Just a very insightful guy, knows how to ask really good questions to people. Make sure you guys are following him, following the Confessionals. Couldn't be more appreciative of all the podcasters, but especially Tony Merkel. And I think that's probably where we'll close it out here tonight, guys. We went for 2 hours. I really appreciate it. This won't be the last time you'll hear from me. We are going to possibly have one more evidence review space where we review all the evidence one last time before the end. You guys can ask more questions at that point. But I just want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you all for following, and I can't wait to see what we are able to do together. So have a great night, everybody, and we'll be in touch soon. Okay, guys. So let's do a quick roundtable on it. We've got people in the chat who, they are, skeptics. I'll be nice and say they're skeptics, right? And that's fine, right? I think that it's okay for people to be skeptical of the situation. Now, what I'll say regarding some of the claims I saw there's a lot of going back and forth on this and that. So let's just address some of the stuff that's out there. Is no, I'm not lying to anybody. No, I'm not scamming anybody. No, I don't ban people that disagree. In fact, that's the opposite. That's what you guys did to me. That's why I'm banned from the only subreddit about the case. That's why I'm banned from the Discord and got banned from you guys' Discord within like 10 minutes because I refused to believe your opinions. You didn't want to argue at all, right? When you gaslight like that, that just takes away from your position, right? When you lie about my position, that's trolling. When you claim stuff like, "Oh, I'm just concerned about you," that's what concern trolling is. Don't do that kind of stuff. I think that a lot of the Redditor brain people don't even realize that they're trolls half the time. I'm not sitting here trying to convince you, you're the ones trying to convince us. So also, again, hold yourselves to your own standards. What I will say is that there are some people, I'm going to take this off for a second, that say, oh, well, EXIF data can be easily faked, right? Because if the Philip Wood picture is real, then potentially the videos are real. And it means it definitely didn't crash in the South Indian Ocean. And then those same people will say, well, you saw some pictures that have no proof that they're from 2012, but you saw EXIF data, so that proves it. That's you being hypocritical. I'm not the one hypocritical in that scenario. That's you. You might say, oh, well, those pictures match exactly your videos, so that means that the pictures must be in the videos. And I say, well, we found a picture that exactly, not we, but somebody else found a picture of Mount Fuji that's a perfect match from altitude and time of day and shadows of the picture of the Jonas picture, the one that doesn't reverse image search back to the website. You want to explain that? Do you also want to explain why there's a modified date on all the pictures in question of December 4th, the same day that a 6-day-old Reddit account claims to have found the pictures in a completely implausible reason? How about, if we're going to deal with the people on Reddit as well, the fact that the people on Reddit are yelling at people that are supporting of the videos due to their account age, but when there's a debunker that comes out that's a 1-day-old account or a 6-day-old account that has a completely implausible story, then they immediately flip the script and go, well, it doesn't matter how old their account is anymore, right? So what I'm again asking is that you hold yourself to your own standards. And what you'll find out is that if you try to hold yourself to your own standards and not be a hypocrite, it's not me that runs out of evidence, it's you guys. So I think that addresses all of the claims that I saw in the chat. Keep in mind, I still have 14 pages of evidence, and nobody's been able to explain what Edward C. Lynn went to prison for 6 years, which is wildly disproportionate compared to people that simply leaked or told secrets. Wildly disproportionate, right? We've got the window of opportunity down to 1 month around when the plane went missing. Edward C. Lynn, if these videos are real, is 100% the guy, right? There's no ambiguity about it. He was the exact right position. He was in a spy plane. He could have been there that exact night. He would have had access to both videos. He was deployed February 2014, and then the case against him began April 2nd, 2014. The window is literally the time of the videos coming out, right? And it coincides with both when Regicide Anon claims to receive the videos, as well as how long it would have potentially taken them to catch him, knowing that he took a Citrix session and that the Citrix session would have been recorded and he would have been caught, right? I've proven with plenty of evidence, reasonable doubt, that Edward Seelin was the guy because they're real videos. I've always had the same standard. If you want the case to go away, all you have to do is find the hoaxer. If you find the hoaxer, bring the source files. It would all go away. If you guys are VFX experts, you know there's no chance they wouldn't still have these the content that they use to create these videos. You don't make the end product in one go, right? It's a painstaking process. If you're a VFX expert, you would know that, right? So where are they? Why didn't they come forward for $150,000 and probably internet fame for the rest of their life in any job at any studio that they want, right? You didn't find them because they don't exist. I found Edward C. Lin because he's the guy, right? Hold yourselves to your own standards. Hold yourselves to your own standards. Okay, anything else we've got in the questions in the chats? And yeah, I guess the other part too is the scientists are on my side, not your side. I'm the one literally talking to DoD engineers and scientists and engineers that work for the Navy, as well as theoretical physicists that support the ideas as well. You guys have what? Neil deGrasse Tyson, did he go on the record somewhere? Please let me know. I also have Marvel Studios VFX expert Jeffrey Ford, who worked on, Endgame, Civil War, and Spider-Man No Way Home, who says it would take 4 to 6 months to build the storyboard and research the evidence, research everything and figure it all out. So you tell me what your VFX expert credentials are compared to Marvel VFX expert Jeffrey Ford, or the supposed Top Gun Maverick VFX lead, who says that just trying to get the plane to be accurate to the scale and it moving is something they couldn't even pull off in Top Gun Maverick, which was a 2022 movie. Okay? So, guys, keep in mind, I think that there's a lot of people out there that from the skeptic camp, they don't realize how strong the weight of the evidence is. It's extremely strong. And you're just delusional because you think that your side, all you have to do is try to poke some hole in it, but that's not how it works, right? That's what, if you go and look at one of my recent tweets, is that you need to tell us what the story is. Why would Regicide Anon put on the videos received March 12th, 2014? Is he lying? Come up with the story. The story basically begins with Regicide Anon for some reason being in on the hoax or being the hoaxer. That's how your story needs to begin. So develop a comprehensive story, and I'll be happy to listen to you and argue with you about it. But if you're going to play picky-choosy and not hold yourself to your same standards, don't be surprised when no one's going to listen to you, right? You're the one trying to convince us. We don't care about what you think. You think the videos are fake, go move on and do something else. You are exposing that you don't believe in your own opinions because you're not just moving on with the issue. So I think that's enough in terms of addressing the debunkers in the chat. Oh, one more thing that I like as well. The idea of modifying the VFX is completely absurd. I think that people that think that someone modified the Pyromania VFX to get it to match our videos is frankly stupid. Not even the Starship Troopers modified it. Because when you do VFX, you just put the VFX into your thing. That's the whole point of using stock assets, right? So in no way, shape, or form has the drone video been debunked. And we can tell pretty quickly because we can tell these two things are not the same. You would not modify something and change all this around to get it to match. That's completely speculative and illogical, especially because you can't compare them side by side to do that, like the Corridor Crew did, or like McWest did, and the debunkers. You cheated. You need to admit that you cheated on this, because if you can't at least be honest and admit that these don't match, then how can we take anything you say seriously? If you're willing to falsify fake debunks like this, then you've completely destroyed your credibility. Because I can literally just compare it over the top and I can realize that this visual effect is not in our videos, conclusively not in our videos. Right? And if you are not even on the realm of reality where you can admit that you were wrong about this, then nothing you say can be taken seriously because you're not coming at it from a position of good faith. I can admit that the one frame is similar but not a match, then you should admit there's no chance this VFX is in here. This is not in our videos, guys. Okay. So I think that's about it. Right, guys? Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was a good space that we did tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and end out, get some rest. I don't think that I'm going to do a follow-up stream tonight because I think we did enough here tonight, and this was good. And tomorrow we'll jump back with the science. So I found more papers. I'm going to dig up through all these papers tonight. I'm going to watch more of the podcast, get these things edited so I can get them pushed out there. And yeah, thank you guys very much. Have a great evening. Appreciate you guys, and we'll be in touch tomorrow with some more science. Peace, everybody. Oh, also one last thing is that check out the Jake space tomorrow. So we're going to trigger more people. We're going to do more spaces with Jake Chansley, which always triggers people, but I think it's going to be an awesome space. I have a list of questions and stuff to talk about related to advanced technology and how the government is keeping it hidden from us. So should be awesome, guys. Take it easy. Peace, everyone.